Have you ever felt like there has to be more to the idea of God than what we're told in sermons or ancient texts? Well, the legendary psychoanalyst Carl Jung was certain of it. And here's the thing, he wasn't an atheist, not even close. In fact, he famously claimed that he knew God existed. But, and this is a big but, he argued that organized religion had somehow become a wall between us and the very divine it was supposed to connect us to. So let's dive into what he really meant by that.
It really all kicks off with this absolute bombshell of a statement from 1958. See, a priest asked him a pretty straightforward question. Do you believe in God? But Jung's answer was anything but straightforward. He looked right at him and said, I don't believe, I know. Just let that sink in for a second. He's drawing this incredibly sharp line in the sand between believing, which, is based on faith, and knowing, which he said comes from direct, personal experience.
And the priest's reaction? Oh, he was livid. I mean, he apparently stood up, red in the face, and just stormed out, calling it blasphemy. What's absolutely wild is that Jung's words were so controversial that after he died and the recording of that conversation was released, religious leaders actually tried to get it banned. They were convinced he was attacking God. But Jung always insisted he was doing the exact opposite. He was trying to save God.
Right, so he wasn't attacking God. He was defending the experience of God from the institution of religion. In his view, over centuries, religion had slowly but surely built this kind of barrier between people and the divine, basically replacing the real thing with a copy. And he identified 4 huge ways this happened, 4 fundamental misunderstandings that changed everything.
And these are they're profound. Jung argued that religion made 4 really critical substitutions. It swapped direct personal experience for secondhand belief. It traded an actual connection with God for a long list of rules. It turned an internal reality into some external being up in the sky. And it weaponized fear in the place of love. Let's unpack each one of these. So the first, and probably the biggest mistake, according to Jung, was this swap of experience for belief. Belief is all about hoping something is true. It's about trusting what a book says or what a priest tells you. But experience? That's totally different. That's direct contact. It's that personal, undeniable knowing that doesn't need faith because you've actually felt it for yourself.
So why on earth would this happen? Well, Jung's take was pretty controversial. He basically said that institutions fear direct experience. Why? Because if you can connect with the divine all on your own, then what do you need the middleman for? The whole structure, all the rules and the hierarchy, it all becomes a lot less important. Jung was adamant that this direct line to the divine is open to every single one of us, no middleman required. And that leads us straight into the second misunderstanding. See, if you take away that direct experience, you have to fill that empty space with something. And for Jung, that something became rules. All of a sudden, the spiritual journey wasn't about a genuine connection anymore. It was a checklist. Pray this many times, follow these specific commandments, perform these exact rituals.
But is that really what matters, just following the rules? Jung told this powerful story about one of his patients. She was this deeply devout woman who followed every single rule of her faith to the letter. And yet, she came to him in total despair, feeling this absolute soul-crushing emptiness inside. His diagnosis was simple. She was so busy performing her religion that she never actually stopped to experience the divine. And this brings us to the question he would really ask all of us. When you engage in your own spiritual practice, whatever it is, are you just going through the motions? Is it a performance for some invisible audience? Or is it a genuine attempt to connect with something real? It's a really powerful distinction to think about.
Okay, the third big mistake is basically one of geography. Jung said that religion put God out there, somewhere, up in the sky on a golden throne, completely and totally separate from us. And this creates this huge distance that, well, conveniently, only the religious institution can help you cross. But Jung argued this entire map is just wrong. And this right here was the absolute core of his message. The divine isn't some external being that you pray to. It's an internal reality that you awaken to. In fact, it's the very consciousness that's looking out of your eyes right this very second. The whole search for God isn't about looking up at the heavens. It's about looking within. And the fourth and final misunderstanding, this one is maybe the most damaging of all, the weaponization of fear. Jung was so clear on this. Ideas like eternal damnation, a wrathful, punishing God, he said these were not divine truths. He saw them as man-made tools of control, invented by institutions to keep people in line through absolute terror.
Jung once had a patient, a man who was utterly terrified of dying because he was certain he'd be condemned to hell. And Jung's insight was so simple but so profound. He told him, "You do not fear God. You fear what religion has told you about God." Because a truly divine presence, he argued, wouldn't need to use threats. Fear is for control. Love is for liberation. So, okay, after tearing down all these old definitions, what did Jung build in their place? This is where his work goes from just a critique to an actual revelation. For him, God wasn't a person in the sky. It was something so much more intimate and way more profound than that. For Jung, God isn't really a noun. It's more like a verb. It's not a person, but a presence. It's the fundamental consciousness that all of reality springs from. That silent awareness that is witnessing your life right now, well, that's it. It's not some judge watching you from above. It's the entire universe experiencing itself through you. And this leads to what might be his most startling idea of all. That awareness that's in you, the one hearing my voice, thinking your thoughts, that isn't just a piece of God. That is God. The universe isn't some painting that God made. It's more like God is manifesting as the painting, experiencing itself from every single perspective all at once. Now, that's a beautiful idea, right? But how do we get from just hearing about it to actually feeling it? How do we make that leap from belief to direct experience? Well, Jung offered a path that is shockingly simple. It's one that doesn't require a church or a book or any kind of middleman. He called it the path to knowing. And it all starts with just sitting in silence, letting go of all the words, the prayers, the rituals. Then you simply ask inwardly, who is aware right now? And here's the trick. You don't answer with your mind. You just turn your attention back to the silent presence that heard the question. That awareness, that, Jung said, is the destination. Jung actually said this was how he personally came to know. It wasn't through studying ancient texts or debating theology. It was by getting quiet enough to stop talking to some external God and to start listening as the internal divine awareness. It's a huge shift from asking for stuff to simply being present. So does all of this mean Jung just thought religion was bad and we should throw it all out? Well, no, not exactly. His view was actually much more nuanced. He saw religion not as the enemy, but as a really powerful tool. A tool that, unfortunately, most of us are using completely backwards. This was his absolute favorite metaphor to explain it. He said the stories, the symbols, the rituals of any religion, they are not God. They are just a finger pointing the way towards God. Think of them like a map, but they are not the destination itself. And this, he said, is the critical mistake that so many people make. They start worshiping the finger. They get obsessed with their specific set of rules, their particular dogma, arguing about whose finger is the right one. And while they're doing all that, they completely forget to look where all the different fingers are pointing, inward. Because Jung believed if you actually follow where all the different religious fingers are pointing, they all lead to the exact same place. They all point to a universal truth, that the divine is within us, that its nature is love, and that it is consciousness itself. The great tragedy, he felt, is that we all got so busy fighting over the fingers that we forgot to look up at the moon. So in the end, this is the challenge that Jung leaves us with. It's really a choice. Will you continue to just rely on belief, on what other people have told you about God? Or will you take that journey inward, to experience it for yourself, to move from simple faith to the absolute certainty of knowing? The choice, as he said, is all yours.